Happy Wednesday, everyone, shall we say? For those that are just joining us, we had a little momentary glitch and we all got knocked off and had to come back in. But in mafia land, knocking off is not a good thing, so from where I come from. So we're all back and alive and safe and sound and glorious happy Wednesday, April 21st, for our midweek um, oasis is what we call this when we get together. Hello, church family. It's so good to have you here with us tonight. So, what is Wednesday night service? We call it the oasis because it's a place where we can be together as a community to be spiritually refreshed between Sundays. When Reverend Jeff came, he introduced our Wednesday night service in the song style, where we have the intention that we have an informal, intimate, and rich gathering midweek. He liked the idea of having a speaker speak on a subject for 20 minutes or so and then open it up so we could have that informal, intimate, and rich communication and discussion and connection. So that's what we're striving for tonight, is to replicate that. Our annual theme for the year is Timeless Wisdom, Evolutionary Vision. Timeless Wisdom, Evolutionary Vision. And our theme for the month is Stepping into the Unknown. So we just had a moment of stepping into the unknown. How do we get back into Zoom? If you're here joining us for the first time, we welcome you. I have some information during the announcements how you can stay connected with us. And to improve the quality of the transmission, our Zoom team will either mute you if you haven't been, your camera and your microphone, because that will improve the quality of our transmission. So with that in mind, I'd like to ask our practitioner in service tonight, which is Chantel Rolfing, who did a fabulous meditation for us at the beginning. Chantel, can you open us up in prayer? I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. So let's just come together by by taking a deep breath and releasing. As I breathe in, I'm just so grateful to know that there is only one life, one power, one presence, one ever expanding love that encompasses the entire universe. It is the source of absolutely everything. It is the source of all peace, of love, of joy, of abundance. And it just fills every cell of our bodies, every breath we take, and surrounds us with sacred spirit. And I just know that my life is one with the life of spirit. And I know that's true for everyone within the sound of my voice. That each one of us are infused with that divine energy. We are it. We are of it. And so I just bless this service tonight, this Wednesday oasis at our beloved center. I just know that with the topic of blessing and the energy of bliss, that we just take in this service with open hearts and minds. I bless Alena as she speaks her word tonight, knowing that we take exactly what we need from her message. I just give great thanks for this coming together of community, for us coming together with our hearts, our minds, our spirits, and know that it's an absolute blessing. And so, giving thanks, I just say, and so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Chantel. So as Chantel stated, our speaker tonight is Alena Hutchinson. She's a practitioner here at our center in Oakland, as well as a ministerial student. So she gets to work her magic on us that she's learning at the Holmes Institute. It's a joy to have her with us tonight. Her topic is Bless-itation. I'm curious to see how she's going to take us on a journey and explain how that all works for us. So, with that in mind, Elena, I turn it over to you, darling.
Thank you, Paul and Chantal. That was great. So this year, with our weekly themes, CSL has invited us to engage in a process of visioning and becoming. Our theme for this month, as Paul said, is stepping into the unknown. And our theme for the week is Bless-itation. This combination of blessing and hesitation describes that moment when we are poised on the brink of something new, about to step into the unknown. That moment when everything in us wants to hit the pause button or the panic button. Over millennia, our brains have evolved to keep us firmly attached to what is familiar and safe. When we think of ancient maps, we think about the known world, and beyond that, that phrase, dragons be here. When we think about moving into the unknown, the reasons to hesitate seem very real. And the blessings we might reap from taking such a leap of faith seem very intangible. Deepak Chopra's promise to us in such moments is this: relinquish your attachment to the known, step into the unknown, and you will step into the field of all possibilities. And my answer to him is, yeah, you step into the field of all possibilities. There are many ways that we can find ourselves either teetering on the edge of the unknown or drowning in it. Those CSL themes are designed to inspire us to deliberately embrace the unknown. Science of Mind has this sort of wonderful practice called visioning that invites us in a meditative state or in a prayerful state to open ourselves to catch the highest vision that Spirit might have for us and move toward it. Sometimes, even if we're not consciously engaged in a visioning process, we feel like we're being nudged by Spirit to move towards some change, to be willing to encounter the unknown. Often, though, we don't encounter the unknown as a conscious decision. Instead, we land in the unknown, maybe after a death or a job loss, an illness, a pandemic. And then the challenge is to surrender to it. So think about this: if you were to open to Spirit's highest vision for your life, who might Spirit be calling you to be in this moment? Or where in your life right now do you kind of know that you need to take a step toward an unknown future, one that'll serve you better than the familiar, comfortable enough place that you occupy now? Or where in your life are you encountering an unknown that you just need to embrace more fully and surrender to? A year ago, we were all thrust into an unknown that none of us had really ever imagined. Sheltering in place for 2 weeks seemed overwhelming. A year was unthinkable. So now, as we contemplate opening up, we know we're not really just going back to the way things were. And in a way, we may be actually facing a future almost as unknowable as sheltering in place was a year ago. And then here at OCSL, we face a different kind of unknown as we let go of our experience of having Reverend Jeff walking beside us and begin to turn toward the next chapter in the life of our center. And of course, many of us are facing other kinds of experiences of letting go of the old, embracing the new, transition, adjustment. Because even during a shelter in place order, life goes on, things happen. For a few minutes now, I'm going to invite you to go, as Paul said, on a journey with me to a time in my life when I somehow stumbled into taking an enormous leap into the unknown. You've probably had some of those experiences in your life yourself. And there were lessons along the way. So as I tell the story, I'll let you see if you can identify any of those lessons, and then we'll talk about them. So it's March in a year I don't really want to name, but okay, it's 1988. I am a lawyer in Dallas, Texas, wishing that I had gone with my other career choice of becoming a psychotherapist. But I have no idea how I could possibly actually in real life make that kind of change happen, especially financially. Anybody else ever let money keep you from doing something you really, really wanted to do? That's probably just me. So I even looked into the psychology programs at the local colleges. They all looked really boring, all rats and mazes and statistics. And at that time, certain family members are trying to tell me that we should all move to Los Angeles. But there's that small matter of the California bar exam, and it's not really a good time to get a job in my particular specialty. The laws were changing, it was kind of going away. So I'm feeling stuck. I'm imagining some of you have been there. So this journey ends 10 months later when I am living in California, practicing law, and in school at night in a psychology program that I absolutely love. So how did that happen? Like all transitions, it begins with an ending. In my case, it was the ending of a serious relationship I had been in for several years. And I'm sure most of you can relate to this. I threw myself into my spiritual practices because I needed to do something. Maybe because of that, I had an epiphany one day. I thought, what if I treated my entire life as just a blank slate? What if I decided that what I decided to do next didn't have to have anything to do with any decisions I'd made in the past? It immediately became clear what I had been avoiding was that I really, really needed to be living in California and have a private practice as a psychotherapist. And that's when things started happening. In fact, in April, 4 things happened. First, a friend that I had not seen in months called and said, I know you said you might move to California someday, and I'm taking the California bar exam. Do you want to study together? So my immediate internal response was, no. If you've ever taken a big exam, you feel me. So I said, yeah, I don't know if moving to California will ever happen. I turned her down. The second thing, a week later, the workshop I'm taking that weekend gives me homework, which is to do something crazy. The craziest thing I could think of was taking the California bar exam on a whim. So I called my friend and said I would do it. I was sitting at my desk that week, and it occurs to me that if I have to spend a fortune on that, it would be really nice to get some law firm to pay for it. So I called a headhunter in Los Angeles just to look around, see what might be available, although I'm not feeling very hopeful about finding anything in my specialty. The third thing, a week later, a friend tells me she knows of a different headhunter that I should call, a new thought person like us. She assures me that this person is in LA. She's not. She's in San Francisco. But I call her anyway because I know my friend is not going to let go of it until I call her. The fourth thing, a week later, I'd recently joined a small startup law firm, and without going into the details, when your boss asks you to do something, and in order to stay in integrity, you believe you need to say no, and you're the only employee who says no, what you do next is start looking for a new job. I call both headhunters and I say, okay, now I'm really looking. And that's when things started to get a little crazy. 2 weeks later, I have a trip planned. I have interviews scheduled in Los Angeles and then San Francisco. I still think I'm moving to LA. My friend points out to me that every time I talk about moving to LA, I accidentally say San Francisco instead. The day of the trip, I get to the airport, check my luggage. The woman at the counter writes my gate number on my boarding pass. The guy at the gate checks me in. I'm heading to the door to the airport when suddenly the guy calls me back. Where are you going, he says. I tell him I'm going to Los Angeles. And he says, Oh no, that's a flight to San Francisco. I had a ticket to LA and two different airline workers tried to put me on a flight to San Francisco. So before the end of May, I had a job offer and I'm here. So I didn't end up in LA. The headhunter my friend suggested, the new thought person who was supposed to be in LA but actually was in San Francisco, she initially steered me toward the firm that I ended up going with, in part because the hiring partner was big in the Buddhist community here, and he loved my interest in world religions. In San Francisco that fall, what did I find here but schools with graduate degrees in spiritual psychology? Who knew that was even a thing? Apparently they existed, but only in the Bay Area. Suddenly the universe steering me towards San Francisco instead of LA made perfect sense. And in January, I was in school at night studying spiritual psychology, not rats and mazes. So working and being in school and financing all of it, I never did figure out how to make that work, although I did lots of budgets that didn't work on the backs of envelopes. I just kept taking the next step. I tell people that I fooled myself into getting a degree. Pema Chodron says the most important aspect of being on the spiritual path may be to just keep moving. So what were the lessons in all that? It seemed like there were at least 4 that I could see, 4 major ones that I'm still in the process of learning, of course. The first one has to do with spiritual practice. It seems the more you do, the more you get out of it. Who knew? Well, apparently it took me several years to figure that one out. A couple of years ago, I'm looking back at my life and noticing that there were times, like that year, when the way I was being supported by the universe seemed magical. And there were times when it did not seem magical. The thing was, I didn't know what the difference was between those times of flow and those times of not so much flow. It was almost like occasionally God showed up. When I was in the flow, there was a grace and ease missing at the other times. I felt like my inner guidance was so clear. Other people seemed intent on bringing me helpful messages. Total strangers tried to put me on the right flight. I realized that those were the times when things in my life were kind of falling apart, the knowns. The knowns were falling away. And I reacted to those uncertain times by upping my game a little in terms of my spiritual practice. I was meditating a little bit more. I was praying a little bit more. God didn't show up. I did. Maybe more out of desperation than dedication. Ernest Holmes knew that when we invest the time to get ourselves truly aligned with spirit, the results aren't vague or uneven or far off, but real and tangible and immediate. The second lesson was the value of a clear intention. I knew back then from being in a unity church that our minds shape our reality, our beliefs, our thoughts, our emotions. It was Emerson who said, when you make a decision, the universe conspires to make it happen. He didn't say when you wish for something, or when you kind of sort of think maybe you're ready to do something, although not doing it actually sounds pretty good too. He said, when you make a decision, the universe conspires to make it happen. And the universe is pretty good at that. In his famous Sermon by the Sea, Ernest Holmes put it this way: there is a power in the universe for good greater than you are, and you can use it. So back in 1988, I had not heard Ernest Holmes' famous mantra, principle is not bound by precedent. But something in my spiritual practices led me to sort of etch a sketch my life, to envision a future that wasn't bound in any way by the past, to be just a little bit willing to surrender to some blessings that might be waiting for me in the unknown. Oh, I did a lot of backpedaling here and there, believe me, but there was a tiny bit of willingness. And when I wasn't completely willing, the universe gave me a little push here and there. But once my wish to be in California in a new career somehow transformed from a wish into an intention, things started to move. And that brings us to the hows. The third lesson is forget the hows. Ernest Holmes was very clear about this. This is, in fact, the fifth and final step in a spiritual mind treatment. Let go and let God. Early in 1988, right before all this crazy stuff happened, I had just reread that children's classic, A Wrinkle in Time. I'm sure many of you know it. So here's the synopsis I found. Meg Murray, her little brother and a classmate, guided by three mysterious astral travelers, brave a dangerous journey to a planet that possesses all of the evil in the universe in order to rescue her father. It was, of course, later made into a movie starring Oprah Winfrey. So I loved her character. It was like, she was one of the astral travelers. And it was like Oprah, but sparkly. And to tell the truth, in my mind's eye, that's always how I see Oprah. Sparkly. My takeaway from that book was noticing that the kids never knew how they were going to rescue their father. They never knew what was going to happen as a result of any action they took. They just did the next thing that seemed to be in front of them to do. At the time, I actually thought that that was probably a pretty good lesson for life. And then the universe said, "You think so? Let's take it for a spin." Martin Luther King put it much more simply, when he said, "You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step." And finally, the big lesson. Throughout this whole process of stepping into the unknown, I was a relative newbie to New Thought. I knew about affirmative prayer and meditation. I hadn't made the transition yet to science of mind. I didn't have our really elegant, turbocharged tools like spiritual mind treatment, visioning. And even so, with just the tiniest bit of willingness and cooperation on my part, a little bit of extra time invested in spiritual practices. Not very regular because, I'm not very regular, but a little bit of practice. The universe was, in fact, conspiring to make it happen. God was there, and that nagging feeling I had that I needed to make some changes in my life, that divine discontent. God was there in my hesitation, showing me all the limiting beliefs and worn out attachments that I needed to let go of. God was there in all the little signposts along the way. And God was there to throw me in the water when I wasn't quite ready to jump. In the Bible, we find, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, then I will come in." It's not that God will meet us halfway. God has come for us and is standing there, looking at her watch and wondering when we're going to open the stupid door. That's called grace. I'll tell you, when those airline workers tried to put me on a plane to San Francisco, when my ticket said Los Angeles, I did, even in that moment, take it as a sign. I felt like I knew God was on the job, and I was able to relax just a little bit. The feeling of that. It's like when you're 5 years old and you're about to cross a busy street and the adult you're with takes your hand. So if you're okay with this, you might want to just close your eyes for a few seconds and feel that. I bet most of you remember that feeling with some older person you trusted. They've got your hand in theirs. You're not giving one thought to the cars whizzing around you. You're hopping on one foot and the other. You're jumping over the cracks in the sidewalk. You're throwing your head back and sticking your tongue up at the sky. And all the while, they've got you. That feeling, that letting go, that's faith. Frederick Buechner said, faith is stepping out into the unknown with nothing to guide us but a hand just beyond our grasp. Anyone who has ever had a child or been a child knows that it's a whole lot easier to cross the street with a child if said child is cooperating. The question is, as we face the unknowns in our life, are we going to find a little bit of willingness so that God's grace can meet us? Are we going to do our spiritual practices, try to create clear intentions, forget the hows, and let go and let God? Or are we going to make spirit drag us kicking and screaming into the unknown? Corrie ten Boom said, never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God. So in a minute, I'm going to open this up for discussion. But for now, let's just have a minute or two of silence as we contemplate these questions. Where in your life, right now, are you being invited to step into or surrender to an unknown? What dragons do you fear there? What blessings might be there? And what hesitations is Spirit asking you to release and let go of? So now I will invite everyone to turn on cameras perhaps and unmute if you'd like to say anything.
Alena, can you look in the chat and make sure I captured your questions that you're poising? Okay. And if you would like to share or make a statement, if you turn on your camera and raise your hand, or if you know how to do that through the participation list, Peggy, are you willing to recognize order of that? Okay, Miss Peggy will guide us through that. So,
Okay.
so make it easy on you, Alena, darling.
Thank you.
So if you, like I said, raise your hand this way or use the participation list to raise your hand.
Right. So far, I'm not seeing anyone quite yet.
Or you can pick someone, Alena, to share.
I see Maureen.
Hi, I can.
Yay, Maureen, the icebreaker.
That's Maureen's
Hi. Yeah.
mission in
Well,
life.
I mean, yeah, apparently. So, what really came up for me, of course, I hope, I don't know, maybe a lot of people can relate to me, is Reverend Jeff. Reverend Jeff's leaving and transitioning, not leaving. And so, just the unknown of it all and the different human perspectives of, because we're all in this family, and just the different human perspectives of this family. And then my, you know, like everybody's different ones. And then you're trying to do what we're talking about. It can be a little, I guess, noisy is a good word. And I guess really what I got from your talk was I need to do more spiritual practice, right? So it just resonated with me with, you know, like what we're going through now. And it really spoke to my heart to be more open and to have faith that spirit's on the job. So thank you.
Nice. Yeah, it kind of brings up that whole idea of the multiplicity within the oneness, right? That we're each unique manifestations, and that's part of the beauty of creation. And the other thing that came to mind as you're talking is the wisdom of the crowd. You know, we're facing a lot of decisions, a lot of choices, but there is wisdom in all of us acting together, coming together, visioning together, that's going to really serve us, you know, in the next year or so. Anybody else? Thank you, Maureen. Sherry. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm taking over Peggy's job here.
That's quite all right.
Okay, Peggy?
Sherry, go for it, Sherry.
Oh gosh, that was a powerful, powerful talk. If I'm sensing the silence is thoughtfulness. I know that was how I was responding. How am I? There's so much to take in with everything you said. So yeah, I love what you said about never be afraid of an unknown future with unknown God. Was that what you said?
Never fear an unknown future with a known God. I think that was.
Yeah. That one really resonated with me. I'm halfway through, excuse me, this energy medicine program that I spoke of in the beginning, and it's knocking my socks off in an incredible way, turning insides to insides to different even a different person inside, how I'm relating and feeling, and almost a different world. And it ends in July, and I'm already trying to project like the unknown future. What am I really doing here? Am I doing this just for my own healing, or am I doing it to become a healer?
Wow.
And they're encouraging both. And so that whole self-doubt, what, you know, I can't do these illuminations and do everybody's auras and work with their auras and take the imprints out so that they don't get disease. And that whole left brain in me is fighting doing that second part, being the healer. And yet I know everything I was called. My teacher said you wouldn't be here if you weren't called to this shit. And I went, oh God. So, and then I think, well, then there's advanced consciousness studies coming up in September. So it's like I'm doing both paths, and not to become a practitioner, but how can I, where will I be in July? And I'm feeling like even living in this apartment where I am is becoming too small. And I want to be on land. And the call to be on land and living with more land is really strong in me. And I don't have an idea what that means. I'm not going to the mountains. I'm not going, and I'm going to be going on, I'll just close by saying, I'm doing a 4-week, oh my goodness. I'm doing a 3-week prep diet right now, which is a fasting kind of thing, getting ready for a 10-day detox in May to get ready for a 3-day vision quest with only water in June.
Wow.
And it's, if I, like what you said, just take the next step. I don't have to be thinking down the line or even what July is going to look like. I'm certainly healing from the inside out from my own self. If nothing else happens in this 6 months, this is profound. So I don't have to know. I'm just going to take the next step. And so I took in everything you said tonight, and I honor you for doing and following the way that you needed to follow and trusted, even when you weren't trusting. So I'm taking that with me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. You sort of perfectly captured the theme, the bless-itation, so many good things going on, and that hesitation. And it sort of occurred to me, like, your teacher said you wouldn't be here if not for.
Yeah.
It's really seeing the blessing, not just in the future, but where you are right now. That, when you start to think about doing these things, it's like Spirit's already started the process. It's not like you're trying to decide.
Give it up.
Yeah, if you think you might be in it, you're already in it.
Yeah, no, I'm real clear, and that left brain just comes in and
So artists would say, make a list of all those and bring
Yeah.
spiritual truth.
Yeah, well, thank you. Let someone else talk now. Thanks.
Thank you. I see Robert. Oh, Peggy, I'm sorry.
I want Peggy to recognize me.
Peggy, can you recognize Robert,
I
please?
see Robert Lee's hand up.
Thank you,
All
Peggy.
7 fingers.
Peggy, tell Robert he can speak now.
Please do share with us, Robert.
So the thing that struck me the most on a physical level when you were talking was the holding the hand while crossing the street. I had this visceral response to that. And I've been on both sides of that hand. I've been the child holding the adult's hand, and I've been the adult holding the child's hand. And in fact, since I'm sitting in my living room, I went and grabbed, you probably can't see this, but this is my daughter's handprint when she was 2 years old.
Yeah.
And this is a little casting of my son's hand when he was probably about the same age, 18 months or 2 years, something like that.
Potato hands.
And so it's I remember being picking up my daughter from preschool and walking with her and holding her hand and saying to myself, memorize this feeling because it's not going to last that long. And so when I think about that, I just love that image and that the sensory memory of that holding the hand and the sense of safety that comes with it. So for me, I guess what I'm taking away from this is just that I don't like the word faith very much for reasons I won't go into, but I do like the word trust. And what I'm taking away from Alena's talk is to trust, because to me, trust and that sense of like holding the hand is a sense of relaxation, relaxing into what is, whatever that may be, it's going to be okay. And, I can trust that it'll work out fine. So that's my share.
Constance,
I-
would you like to say?
I was going to say, it reminded me of my son, and Robert happens to know him. How I would hold his hand as he crossed the street, and it would be like holding the hand of a Cirque du Soleil gymnast, as you know. And I thought, God must feel that way, when when we start flailing and tossing ourselves around and fighting and all that stuff. So anyway, I'll let the
That's
next
great.
person go.
I see Constance's hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the spiritual practices, because to me they come in many forms. I mean, we've got the ones that we learn, and then sometimes they show up for me in very unexpected places and very unexpected ways. And yesterday was a really hard day for me. It was I have some days, since Reverend Jeff has transitioned, that are harder than others, and yesterday was one of them. It was just like I wasn't sure I could do anything, and I ended up having a conversation with someone from outside our center, from home office, and she told me something that was just sort of like the perfect thing. She said, very often in communities, in spiritual communities, when a very strong leader has left for whatever reason, there are power struggles that show up between practitioners and board, practitioners and staff ministers and board. And it was just like this relief. And I thought about it afterwards, and this was a spiritual practice. So I thought about it, and I thought, okay, I can't do anything about what anyone else is doing. What I can do is I can make sure I'm not power struggling with anybody else. And so that really shifted a lot for me, so that I woke up this morning feeling a whole lot better, able to move ahead, do the things that I know that I need to do and that I hadn't been doing. And so it's just, I mean, I think that this is such a, Reverend Jerry uses the phrase a tender time. And it is a very tender time. And it's a time when, we all of us have different ways of dealing with the grief. But it was an affirmation to have this woman say that we're not alone in what's going on, and that there's help on the way, one hopes. So that's what I wanted to share.
Yeah, I think you bring up something really, really important at this particular time in our center, because I mean, I remember when we went through this before, when we were in the transition between Reverend Joan and Reverend Jeff, and times of transition look pretty chaotic. Any transition, and it really points to I spent years doing group therapy, and there are stages in a formation of a group. So when you change people, you're in a new group, and it starts all over again. It has to reform, and it goes through these stages. And one of the stages is called norming and storming, and emphasis on the storming, because it is, everything's kind of thrown up in the air, and it really speaks to that need to trust that process, to know this is not necessarily a bad thing, that there's a divine order underlying all of it. That's just, everything needs to fall into place. So it can be hard to remember. And yes, it's tender and chaotic and sometimes crazy making and exciting. So I'm trying to hold on to just that idea that there is a divine order here that's breaking through. Who else?
Robin has her hand up.
Robin.
It's just, I couldn't change my name. I'm really Robin and Gil, and it's really Gil that's the voice.
Hi, Gil. Hi, Gil.
Hi.
Hey, Gil.
Hey, Alena, thank you. That was really powerful tonight, and at this time, well placed.
Mm.
Your question was something about what is it in our lives that we need to let go of to move, and I don't know what it is, because it's what I was realizing though from that question is that it's an everyday, all day kind of thing. That there is that I mean, I can think of my day to day, and I can think of the places where I had to go back and ask, say, well, is this, why am I feeling this? What's going on? And then, later on, I'm like totally accepting and open to what's happening. And so I just say that to say that, there, that idea of like the 4 stages of consciousness, or all these things where, we move up the ladder, there is no up the ladder. It's sort of around the circle or something. and oftentimes I get halfway around and cut back. So anyway, just it was interesting to hear your story and to remind all of us that, it's okay. It's okay. And we can lean into that place of trust. We can just, even when it feels like we're in that place that we don't know, we can just be in that place of trust. So thanks.
I liked what you said about it being a 24/7, because I mean, you think about, well, I need to do more spiritual practice, but it's really about ideally in every moment, you're like getting back into alignment. What do the Christians call it? A prayer without ceasing, which I never, not ceasing, which I never understood, because you can't actually literally pray all the time, right? But you can do that, but just be checking in with yourself all the time to get back into alignment. And yeah, who is going to remember to do that? But having that regular practice and make it more frequent, it seems like for me that makes it, I'm more likely to remember more often, to get back into alignment. So, Chantal.
Yeah, I too loved the message and the story. That was a powerful story of following the signs, following the to end up in the Bay Area. And what struck me about is it took a lot of courage and a huge risk, right? And I remembering like a time in my life where I took a big risk. Me and my partner, we just decided to up and move to Canada for the year and leave our jobs, and with no money, we just knew that it was right to do and that it would all work out. And it was an incredible year that was very abundant in many ways and brought greater abundance into our lives. But people thought we were kind of crazy at the time for doing it. And it reminded me that right now I'm having a longing to make a shift in my life, that I have been perhaps not taking enough risk around, that I'm saying, okay, something is presenting itself to me that will move me forward. And it requires courage, it requires risk. And so it's just a good little seed to be planted, that we got to keep doing that in life. We never reach that plateau where everything's just great, right?
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you. It reminds me that I did have the advantage of being young and stupid, so that helped. It didn't seem like it was taking that much courage. But and that reminds us, yes, we can get, we can get sort of set in our ways, or as we get older, we have more stuff around us, literally and figuratively, and that there are blessings on the other side of that. So, I have gone over. Paul didn't.
Well, we
say-
made an agreement that if we go over, we go over. We all hold our hands and we jump off at the same time. So I just was, in your last statement, I just thought when you said you were young and stupid, I said, well, isn't bliss is ignorance, or ignorance is bliss? Wrap up your theme.
Full circle.
Is that the message you wanted me to have? I got it.
just do it.
Ignorance is bliss. So if no one else has a burning question and want to have a share, we all good to move forward a little bit in the program?
I'll say one thing, Paul.
Yes,
Alena, I did want to tell you, I really was very, very pleased and moved and interested in your talk tonight.
Oh,
And I thank you for sharing parts of your life and your journey, some of which related to my journey just being in California too. I never thought I'd be here, but I'm here. And there is something that you said though, and I hope I got it right. It's just a short thing. It's an invitation to step into the unknown. I think you used the word invitation. For some reason, that really resonated with me.
oh.
To remind us that it's an invitation. That's that knock on the door kind of thing that you talked about. And we have choices. Yes, we do. And yet Spirit also is guiding always. And so that invitation is there for us to have that highest good, even though sometimes we don't know what that is. But what we do know is we know as much as we can know, as much as we're able to at any given moment in time, where it is that we want to be, which is who we want to be, basically. So I like having that invitation because it's something that draws me. Oh, I got an invitation in the mail. An invitation. I can go to the ball. Where's my glass slipper?
That's what I was thinking as you were saying that feeling of like you get this big envelope and you're like, ooh.
Yeah, right. I got an invitation. Yeah. So so I wanted to just I'm just going to be thinking about that as an invitation for me. There are many things right now that I'm wanting to do and be, and I like that. So I'm going to hold that in the midst of everything else too, about stepping into the unknown, and knowing that the short version is I'm not alone as I do so. So thank you for that, Alena. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes. So I don't see anybody else's hand up, Paul.
Okay, so Bert, the right hand to show it's both hands in appreciation for Alena right now, if we can. Thank you, madam, very much for
thank all of you for coming.
Yes, we're glad to have you here. It's so good to see all of you. I have some announcements that I'm going to run through quick, and I mean quick because Peter's got everything ready to show us at the same time. So Peter, when you're ready, let's start with Sunday and Wednesday. Reverend Catherine will be here on Sunday, the 25th, continuing our theme of stepping into the unknown with a talk on stepping out, stepping up. Meditation is at 10. Service starts at 10:30 on this coming Sunday. Next Wednesday, another one of our fabulous practitioners is stepping up and stepping out. Practitioner Susan Urquhart Brown on the 28th will be speaking on stretching into presence. Meditation at 6:30 and service at 7. Then Friday, April 23rd, Diversity Circle will be hosting its monthly event, exploring the uprise in Asian American racism. This is a relevant theme right now that we're looking at. So that starts at 7 p.m. on Friday. The details and the link to make a love offering during that event is on our events page of the website. Look for the events tab at the top banner and click on that to the events. The Courtyard book sale is back, and it's going to be this Saturday from 10 to 3. Anybody here come to the first book sale that we had internally, locally? Well, the next one is this coming Saturday, and Linda is opening it up to our greater community through um, 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 neighborhood medias and things like that, and Craigslist. So we're expecting a larger crowd than before. Everything is 30% off. So join us. That's from 10 to 3. We'll probably have some new visitors to the center coming to participate in that. Tell and bring your friends if you'd like. It'll be a beautiful day. And while you're here, check out the memorial wall for Reverend Jeff. It is still up, and there is still room for your words, drawings, and love. And poke your head into the window nearest the door of the social hall. You can see the beautiful altar that Janine has presented for us in honor of our Reverend Jeff. Thursday, April 22nd is Earth Day. That's tomorrow. And from the title of his book, The Nature of Things, to his love of fly fishing, Reverend Jeff loved nature and all of that it teaches us. In the Village News from last week, there was a list of things you can do to care for our earthly home, or you can get an idea right here from this slide. Also, speaking of Earth and Earth Day, our garden needs you. Loving hands are needed to water our beautiful gardens. If you'd like to be a volunteer to get on the schedule of keeping our beautiful gardens watered as the dry season comes into play, with some hand watering, please contact Zoe DeMuro, who's on the call tonight, or Margot Tibet, our leader in the garden. And knowing all of this, everything that we have going on at the center is all directed through the same homepage that you came. If you're joining us here for the first time tonight, I encourage you to sign up to stay connected with us by getting our Village News newsletter on the homepage. On the left banner, all the way at the bottom, you can put in your email address and submit it, and Constance will receive that request, and you'll receive the next Village News, which tells you what's coming in the upcoming week, has all the cool stuff of how to access. Also, please visit the events page. A lot of events. We have a couple of local events. The Noontime Spiritual Journey on Dr. Dana's Monday through Friday is on that page. Also, Susan Brecker's in-person small group Tuesday meeting information is on that page, as well as that's actually in person in the courtyard. And Zoe DeMuro is also hosting an online small group on Thursdays, all on the events page to see. With that in mind, check out all the other things that we got on the website, the YouTube channel to see videos. You can come back and watch Alena's talk in about a couple of days. Constance will post it on the YouTube channel. Lots to see and do and keep you busy right there on our homepage. All of our access during the shelter and grace period is through oaklandcsl.org. I want to thank Chantel for joining our meditation today, and again thanking our speaker tonight, Alena. Thank you for a beautiful meeting. I want to thank the folks you don't see, and that's the people behind the camera, our Zoom team. Constance is there, Peter's there, Alice is there, and Barbara is there. Did I miss anybody? Oh, Peggy, of course. Miss Peggy. Thank you, Peggy. So thank you, team, for supporting us. It's great to have you, and we appreciate you very much. With that in mind, I'd like just take a minute and offer up the idea of having an offering, a digital offering. As you all know, when we're in the social hall, I have this wonderful walnut bowl that I pass around, and it's a year older than I am, so you know it's petrified walnut wood. Okay, and on the bottom it has an inscription from the family that were woodworkers, and I pass that around the room, and I'm thinking, all the years, for a little bowl, how much of your offerings has been collected in that bowl? So in a digital way, I create that here tonight, and I pass it to Alena and pass it around to all the different cubes. accepting your offering, as we say, as in the slide says, this gift I give is God in action. It does good work in the world and blesses creation. And if you want to know the physical way to drop your money in that beautiful bowl that we have, either the digital one or the physical one, we're doing it now through our warehouse, www.oaklandcsl.org homepage. Right at the top, the donate button for credit cards, or you can text an amount and follow the prompts, or you can drop a check in the mail, and our address is right there. So with that, I'm grateful for your contributions, both physical, financial, time, treasure, talent, everything that we have so lovingly created in this beautiful center of ours. I'm grateful for it, and I release it knowing it's doing good work in the world. So with that in mind, I believe we are complete for our service, except for the closing prayer. And with that, that is my cue to ask Alena to close us out in prayer tonight. Thank you, Alena, again,
Paul.
from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Paul. Creating a great space. So let's pray. There is only one presence, one power, one beingness of light and love that is the source of all creation, that has poured itself into the creation, simply to love it, cherish it, delight in it. It holds us, it sustains us, it breathes us. That is our very breath. And it is that divine intelligence and power and creativity that holds the entire matrix of all of creation in perfect order, harmony, balance, all the disjointed, disconnected, jangly parts, all actually moving in accordance with an implicate order that is whole and perfect and complete. It has thrown the stars into the skies and holds every planet in its orbit and knows the spin of every particle of every atom in the universe. It is divine order and peace itself. I am that, and I know that everyone who is here tonight, everyone who hears our voices, is just one expression, one place in time and space where that divine essence shows up in all of its fullness, with all of its peace, all of its love, all of its joy, all of its bliss, all of its courage, all of its power. It simply shows up as us. I bless this coming together, knowing that we've come together in a oneness that is perfect, even when we cannot see the perfection. And that oneness becomes part of us in a way that's more conscious than when we first started. It's always there, that oneness. And all God is asking us to do is to turn our attention to it, to let ourselves just slip into that comforting feeling of that oneness. As we move through this transition, as we grieve Reverend Jeff's transition to something new and wonderful for himself, as we look toward what's next for us in this adventure that we're on, I bless the coming together, the oneness we're feeling, and the oneness we will take out into the world. I am grateful, so grateful for this community, for the vision that we are already in the process of creating, whether we know it or not. And so I speak my word into the law, knowing it can only say yes, and it is saying yes. I release it. I let go, and I let God. I let God. So it is.